Right, hi there. My name is Tayo Sholagbade. I call myself a location independent multipreneur, and I've been traveling slowly across West Africa since 2005. But like I said, slowly. The goal is not here is not to win any competition in terms of how many countries I've been, but actually to experience every country I go to in as varied a manner as possible, documenting the lifestyle, the culture, the language, the traditions. Not necessarily staying to do it all at once. I could go and come, and all of that. So I really began to do this on a very formal basis in 2013, actually, and started from Benin Republic, and it is my intention to then proceed once the lockdown ends to return to Benin Republic and continue from there. I've gotten invitations to Uganda now, and I intend to explore the opportunity to also go to Togo. There are some other hosts that I'm looking at getting myself invited by. Now, my dream is to encourage young Africans and even the older Africans to travel across the African continent instead of aiming to travel to Europe and America. Like I've listened to some of the younger travelers, we're having more and more young Africans who are traveling now, and some of them are called, I think they're called YouTubers. I'm not a YouTuber, by the way. And what they do is they do travel videos. They do videos documenting their travels, and well, for those of them that travel anyway. And they've been talking about the fact that there are so many destinations on the African continent that people could easily go that will make it worth their while in terms of money they spend and the quality of the experience compared to what they go and spend money on in places like Dubai and Europe and America and all that. And it's true. So for me, that's one of my dreams, to create content that will enable people to make intelligent progress in their travel plans for coverage of the African continent. So I've done a little bit of traveling myself. I've been to the UK, been to Scotland specifically, Wales, um, different parts of the UK, and I've been to Cameroon, Ghana, Benin Republic. The funny thing is this: I have never had any challenges deciding where to put my focus for traveling on. I've always wanted to explore Africa. So this video presentation I'm doing is just in line with what my dream has always been. Because for me now, I think more than ever, this is the time when Africans need to really focus on traveling across their continent and knowing their continent and becoming the authorities on what it takes to travel and tour their continent. We need to stop this situation in which we have foreigners telling us about different parts of our continent, and we watch videos by white people telling us about this. It's not a crime that they're doing it, but we should be doing it better. So that's why I'm doing this. I have been opportune to travel mostly by road. I traveled by air to Cameroon, traveled by air to the UK and across the UK. But I'll tell you this: when you really want to travel and tour, you really want to explore a country, you don't want to travel by air most times. You can do a bit of it by air, but most of it you want to do by road. You really want to move around, you want to walk around, you want to hit, you want to, stroll and explore, take local transportation and really check out the culture, the people, the language, the food, the festivities and all of that. So that's what I've done, and it's enabled me to really immerse myself in every society I've been. And the result of it is that I've come away with the understanding that Africa has a richness that most Africans do not even know about. But having said that, the other thing I'm going to state before I start this presentation is this. This video is not for people who do not want to travel using their legitimate papers, who do not want to follow the rules and regulations that guide traveling across borders in the different countries on the African continent. If you do not want to go and get your proper travel papers in order to travel, you don't need this video, you don't need this presentation, because everything I'm going to be saying there is for people who are going to be traveling through legitimate means, not the ones who are crossing the border on bikes and going through bush paths and all of that. So, and there are people like that. I've been amazed to get myself asked by people, do you mean you really need a passport to travel to Benin Republic, just across the border over there? And I tell them yes. I tell them, oh, but my friend always goes there. Yes, he goes illegally, and when he gets caught, if he gets caught by the wrong person who's not willing to take a bribe, he will not find it funny. The funny thing is, even if he does not get caught, It's still not right. And anyway, when he doesn't have his papers, he doesn't feel confident to do the kind of things I'm talking about in this presentation. So the presentation is useless to such a person. So if you are a person that belongs to that category of people, don't waste your time watching this video. It's not for you. This video is for people, they may be Nigerians, they may be Africans, or whatever part of the continent, or they may be black African Americans from whatever part of the world, they may be blacks from any other part of the world who are planning to travel across Africa. This video is designed with black skinned people in mind, colored people. Not that it discriminates against white people, it's just that the white people don't have the kind of problems I'm describing in this video. They won't have those problems, you know. It's very rare to hear that a white person has some of the challenges that I'm going to describe in this thing. Very, very rare. Yeah, of course, I mentioned someone like Grubinski in one of the presentations, one of the sections. But I mentioned him with regard to the issue of some people trying to exploit him and taking some bribe from him, you know, and which he now blew up in the video that he did. Other than that, he wouldn't have the kind of problems I describe here. So it's mostly people of African descent, especially Africans living within Africa, okay, that are likely to have this challenge, or who are likely to need most of the information I describe in this video. Of course, it's still useful to a general audience as well, but definitely not something that someone who does not wish to travel with legal papers or legitimate papers needs to bother with. So, with that said, let me get started. The top 9 strategies you need to travel successfully in Africa. The first strategy: research what you need to know and do upfront. By this, I mean you need to find out as much as possible about your intended travel destination. You just don't decide to travel to a country without trying to find out what's happening there, what you need to know to be there, and all of that. Now, there are certain resources you can use to gain access to such information before you actually begin to implement your plan to travel to such a country. The first one, and the most obvious one with today's advancements, is the internet itself. So Google is your friend. I did a lot of that, and I continue to do a lot of that whenever I travel. When I was going to go to Cotonou, to relocate to Cotonou in 2013, I remember it was around November, December, I began to do my searches on the web. And I wasn't even sure of what my decision would be, but I was like about 70% made up in my mind and about the fact that I needed to go to that country. But I didn't have any information. I knew nobody there. I had no friends there. The only thing I was convinced about was because of my experience from 1999 in traveling to French-speaking countries and my ability to speak French. I knew that I would not have any difficulty because I'm just a person. I'm so used to moving around and living amongst people of different cultures. It's something, it's a strength I have. So I was very confident that if I moved there, I would not have a problem. But I still wanted to know, to get a good idea of what this country was about, much as I had heard good things about it. So the internet was one of the things I used. The other thing I did was to try and talk to people who I knew were from there. There were a few people who I knew were from some other French-speaking countries, not from Benin Republic. I didn't know anyone from Benin in Nigeria. By that time, I knew some people. Of course, I had Cameroonian friends. Then there were some other people who had traveled, to that country in the past. I asked them for questions about the place. But I really depended a lot on the internet. Later on, I decided to contact the consulate. So the consular general, I was at the consulate on Victoria Island at a point. I went there with my son, and I basically told them what my plans were, and I asked them for guidance on how to travel. So I used all of those to find out what was required of me, what did I need to know to go to the country. Some people may feel this is unnecessary. I'll tell you this. A lot of the information I got, including phone numbers, phone numbers and website addresses, turned out to be extremely useful, not just for me, but also for other people that I met and who were in need of help. I became a resource person. And that's one of the things you can do. If you really want yourself to have a good experience when you travel, it's very useful for you to become resourceful. Collect as much information as possible. You'll be shocked that even some of the nationals of the country you are going to will come to appreciate you because of the volume of information you have. I got to a point where I had so much information that some of the citizens of the country that I was interacting with in Benin Republic, I mean, they were shocked to know that I had phone numbers of certain journalists that they listened to on radio and that they admired and kind of idolized, and who I had actually just run into and who had given me some assistance when I first arrived in the country and exchanged phone numbers with me. I didn't know the person was famous. You know, it was a gentleman who speaks only Yoruba and French. But he had seen me when I was having challenges trying to find a place to rent. And I was kind of speaking with the bike rider. And he just came around and said, "Oh, what's the problem? Well, do you need any help?" He saw with my luggage. And I told him what I needed. And then he told me, "Okay, sit down. Let me just get to the office and be back." I thought it was a media house, but I had no idea he was a popular person like that. Well, later on, I was told about his radio show and all that. So my point is, people were asking me, "How did you meet this guy?" Then I also met somebody who was a special assistant to a minister. I had no idea. Okay, I did have an idea. It's just that I didn't know. Well, it was only when he invited me to his office that I realized he was actually a special assistant to a minister. So my point is, get this information because it could open doors for you. All right. So you could also talk to. That's why I mentioned the item B there. News media, TV, radio, magazines. You'll be shocked. Just find out where some media houses. They tend to be very. Journalists tend to be very accommodating compared to most other people, especially when you are a foreigner and in a country where you don't speak the language. I spoke the language, so that helped me a lot. But if you don't speak the language, journalists are likely to be people who will not only speak the language of the locals, but would also be able to speak your language, because many of them tend to be bilingual or more. They tend to be people who travel, and so they might understand the language that you speak. So you stand a very good chance if you decide to connect with them. And one of the things you should do when you do connect with them, all right, is make sure you can make friends. Don't just let it be a one-off thing, you know. But I'll get to that in another, in the next strategy. Now, still on the first strategy, here's a little tip. Whenever when you're doing your research, try and find out about the existing or the current socio-political situation and projections for the future that maybe cover your intended travel period to that country. Try and find out. Talk to people, read the media outlets, read online and wherever else you can find information. Find out what's happening. Are they approaching an election period? Will there be presidential or whatever other elections? What tends to be the atmosphere like during such periods? You know, in some countries, the election periods are periods when there tends to be tension and things can be a bit volatile. You probably don't want to travel during such periods. So it's important to find out about the social, political, and socio-economic too situation in your intended travel destination ahead of time. So you look at what period it is you intend to travel and compare with what it is that's going to happen during that time, if there's anything that's going to happen. If you're going to travel, so you want to find out what the weather will be like and things like that, what kind of season, what kind of, maybe there's going to be some holidays, some festivities, things like that. So a lot of those things can influence how the quality of experience you have, okay, in the country you want to travel to. So it's important to find out and to be able to discuss that with other people, because by the time you get that information, you then have this, you can use it as a basis of discussing or for discussing with people that you're going to reach out to. Okay, I'll go to the next point now. So let's assume you've done your research, you've done your checks, you are now convinced that yeah, it's good to go, you're good to go, you can travel, everything is set, you are convinced that your visit will not be wasted and that you'll be able to get a qualitative experience as a traveler. Right, the next thing then is for you to get your travel documents, your travel papers. Like I said in the intro, this presentation is not for anybody who does not intend to travel by obeying the laws and the rules and regulations of the intended destination. If you do not plan to get your proper travel papers, then you will not find this useful. There's no point, because it's going to be like living like a fugitive all through, you're going to be dodging the security agencies and you're going to be afraid to show up in certain places. Doesn't make any sense. This will be useless to you. So this is for people who are going to travel the proper way. So you need to get your travel papers and documentation. You need to get your passport. Like I said in the intro, everybody, you need a passport to travel to any African country. If you're an African, and even if you're not an African, of course, you do need your passport. Some countries do not require you to have a visa to travel. You are going to have to check those. Right? So it's very easy to verify those kinds of things. Okay? just ensure that you don't get given anything that's fake. It depends on what part of the country that you're coming from. There are some places where there's a chance that you could get given a fake passport and fake visa and all kinds of fake things. So just do your due diligence. You may need to get a yellow card. There are some vaccinations that you're supposed to take. I think there's a yellow fever vaccine. I think there's the cerebrospinal meningitis vaccination has now been, it's no longer required, so it's been phased out. But I believe you still need to do the yellow fever vaccination. That's correct. I think there's some other things. Just check. Again, these are things that are very basic. Just ask for the Ministry of Health. You'll be able to get the information of your country. They'll be able to tell you everything you need. It's nothing complex at all. All right. Just make sure you get all those things, because those little things, as simple as they are, can become big headaches if you cross the border without them. Just get into trouble. Then you need to look at getting the contact details of key agencies. One of the things I did, like I told you, was to get as much information as possible. So I went out of my way to get the phone number to the Nigerian embassy in every country I was going to travel to. Like I said, some people will tell you it's not necessary. Well, I don't like to leave anything to chance. When you are traveling, especially when you're in another person's country where you do not know people, things can take a turn for the worse in no time. You'll just be amazed. And there are videos that I've watched recently of young YouTubers who are traveling and who have talked about how they got arrested in different countries, and they were saved by the fact that maybe there's a young man called Wodemaya who was explaining how he was in Uganda also, and it was one United Nations ambassador who saw him and kind of pulled him out of the mess, because he was being accused of, I think he was about to be deported or something. Anyway, my point is, if you get the contact details of key agencies, I remember he also mentioned something like, I don't know what country he was in there, where he said he had an email from the Ministry of Tourism or something, and that really helped him, because when he showed that, he explained that helped him to get the officers that were trying to do something to stop. So it's important to have access to all these people, not just access to these agencies, but also contact them. Let them know you exist. Let them know what your intended plans are, so that if and when there's a need to reach out to them during your trip, they will remember you. And you want to also make sure you get the name and the details of the person you contact and you speak with before you embark on your trip. So if you need to reach out to them, you can mention, I spoke with ABCD when I called on so and so date, and he or she told me this, that, and I said I was going to do this. Like I said, all these things may sound unnecessary, but believe me, when you find yourself getting stuck, when you listen to some of the people that have experienced getting arrested in court, you will see that these people who are at the borders can sometimes be extremely unreasonable. So your ability to contact the right people can make a world of difference to your experience. If not, you just find yourself wondering why you ever bother to embark on your trip at all. All right. So call these key agencies, especially the embassies, and find out anything they can tell you to guide you on how to best prepare. All right. And then, of course, talk to other people who you know are experienced travelers. Today, we have a lot of people that are traveling. It's great to see a lot of young Africans who are actually traveling across Africa now. And many of them are making a good point. And I've been saying this a long time. That's why I told people I'm traveling as a location independent entrepreneur slowly across West Africa with the intention of traveling across Africa itself. And I've told people I have no intention of going to Europe and America. There's no attraction for me. You see, we need to travel across our continent and discover our continent. We should be the authorities on our continent, not for us to watch videos by foreigners telling us about destinations in our country, in our continent. So these young Africans who are traveling today are telling other young Africans that they need to travel. So they are becoming experienced travelers who are able to offer guidance on traveling within the continent to not just to other Africans, but to even foreigners now. So we are becoming authorities in our own business. That's the way it should be. We should be the one telling our stories. So that's another point to keep in mind. You can talk to other experienced travelers. There are many of them now who have a lot of travel experience, who are offering information and education using especially the YouTube channel. Some of them are writing articles as well, and you can just connect with them and ask them questions. Right, the third strategy is you need to decide how much cash you want to carry and how to access more cash when you need it. Now, this one is important because, like I said before, it's not everyone that wants to travel going by air. And even if you wanted to travel going by air, it's not everyone that can afford to do that. And there have been cases of people who traveled by air with the intention of continuing to travel by air and who experienced certain unexpected developments that made it impossible to continue or return by air, and they had to go sometimes by road, or in my case, I came back by sea. in That was in 1999 in Cameroon. I actually came back to Nigeria through a place called Idinao in Douala, and I had to come in a boat, a leaky boat for that matter, overnight, and a 12-hour journey across the Atlantic Ocean back to Nigeria. And then, I mean, I was literally a charity case because somebody actually had to speak on my behalf to the owner of the boat to let me go in. And when we got to the other side, the immigration officers were literally at a point where they were going to contribute money for me to get back to work. I was still then employed in Guinness, Nigeria. There's an article on my website about it anyway. But my point is, you can find yourself running out of cash and with no means of getting access to cash. Not that you don't have cash, but if you don't have means to get access to the cash that's yours, then you're effectively like a person that has no money. And when you don't have any money and you're in a foreign country, oh wow, it can be a most unpleasant experience. So you need to find out the nature of the banking system in your intended travel destination and how easy it is to get cash. This is important, and this is one of the main reasons why I'm doing this video. Just a few weeks ago, I'll say about 8-9 weeks ago. Okay, maybe longer than that, because this lockdown now is over. Okay, maybe about, let's say, maybe 2-3 months ago, I was in one of the banks here. I don't want to mention the name of the bank. And I deliberately asked the lady that was attending to me, because what I'd done was to go and check some details regarding international travel, access to funds using the ATMs and all that. And this bank is a very big bank across Africa. They have branches everywhere. And I asked her, I said, I have an account with you. It's not my main bank that I use, so it's a different bank. And I said, I have an account with you guys. When I cross over to Cotonou, for instance, or any of the French-speaking countries, will I be able to access cash directly from my account that I have with you here in Nigeria when I'm over there in the other country? And the lady was saying, well, when I went on holiday to see a friend in Cotonou that works in the same company as me, remember I used my card, but they don't have many ATM machines that you can use to cash money, blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, that's been my experience. I said, but beyond that, one of the things I also experienced was that owning an account with you guys here does not mean I'll be able to access my cash over there. The account over the bank over there, even though it's the same bank as yours, the same company, refuses to recognize the account I have with you in Nigeria. And they tell me I have to open a separate account. And then I have to do a transfer like I don't have an account with them, even though it's the same company. They are doing a transfer into the account I've opened in the currency of that country. So effectively, it's almost like it's the same thing. They don't recognize that you have an account. So it may be the same bank, but the two branches, the one in Nigeria and the one in the Republic, operate as if they are two totally different banks. So it made no sense to open an account with them, because what's the point? I'm still going to have to transfer money and pay the transfer fees. So I'm telling you this because if you're going to travel as an African in Africa, it may be a problem. If you're somebody coming from Europe or America, it's unlikely to be much of a headache, because it's even faster to do a wire transfer from here, from an African bank to the UK or America, than it is to do a wire transfer between two banks in Africa. These are things I've experienced. I've had clients that wanted to pay me from places like Kenya through wire transfer, and it was not possible. And they were telling me, they tried to do it directly, the money got stuck. Eventually, after 3-4 days of calling me, then I had to talk to my banker, and my banker then explained to them they had to do a transfer through some London or, I don't know, some UK exchange. There was this roundabout method. The whole thing didn't make sense. But what I'm trying to tell you is, if you want to travel, verify very carefully what is possible. When I was going to travel, I was told by my bank that I would have absolutely no problems getting cash. It turned out to be a lie. The young lady that told me that and her colleague did not have a clue that there was a big difference between the French-speaking countries and our own country. Believe me, the machines they have there are mostly Visa machines, many of the French countries. And what I had was an ATM card that was a MasterCard. And believe me, you could not get money from those machines. I was just lucky later on, I think in my second year, that somebody then showed me one of the branches of EcoBank, I'm being specific now, that had the machine that it had both the Visa logo and the MasterCard logo, if I recall correctly. So I began to go there to cash money, so I would be able to cash money from my Nigerian account through the EcoBank terminal using my card from Nigerian bank. That was the only place where I found it possible. All the other machines were Visa machines. And many times the bank officials were not even prepared to even talk to me about it. So you need to understand, if you are African traveling in Africa, this might be one of the challenges you might have. So you need to know what to do. One, check that you have the kind of, for instance, they use Visa machines, so try and get a Visa card. That's the first thing. Secondly, try and find out from anyone who is knowledgeable that you can verify for if your Visa card will work on the ATM machines over there. Try and find somebody who has traveled to that country before who can tell you that. Or see if you can talk to someone on phone who can verify for you. There are some of them who come to this country and you can ask them, do the cards work? Because some of them will tell you they have experience. Some of them work with the bank, okay, and they come here. And so when they're here on transfer, they can give you details of what works and what doesn't work. It's important to verify this. Now, when I couldn't get money from the ATMs within town, I actually always had to come to the border. And I would actually stamp my passport and cross the border to the Nigeria side of the semi border to use the ATM machine on the Nigerian side of the border. And then I will cross back into the country, stamp my passport, and then go back into town again. I used to do that. I was doing that for almost 1.5 years before I met an officer that told me differently. Because I tried talking to so many. First of all, there was this unfriendliness again. You know, I don't want to talk about that now, but so the people are not exactly very, when they talk about money issues and going to the bank, people are not very willing to talk to you about all of that. So, but eventually, I was able to make friends and I built relationships, and that enabled me to find out more. So I found that it was possible to use some of the machine, but again, there's these charges you have to accommodate, and they're quite significant. So you've got to look at all of that too. But if you can get some of these international cards like the Pioneer cards and all that, that may make it easy for you, especially if you're somebody that earns income internationally. All right, so but as of this time, I wasn't doing that. I wasn't, and most of the international payments I was getting, $100, $200, $275 were mostly sent to me through Western Union. So I didn't have a system that was that enabled me to earn money. It was only later on, I think 2018 or so, that I began to look at the possibility of using all these other platforms. All right. So you check that the payment system that you're relying on actually work in your intended travel destination, so you don't have issues getting access to cash. I had to endure a lot of pain. There were periods when I actually went without cash. There were periods when I went completely cashless, that I was kicked out of the hotel and I had to sleep on the street. I was sleeping at a point in front of the National Stadium, in front of the shops. And then later on, there was time I slept. That was in Cotonou, and later on, I had to sleep in front of a shop on the street, not far from the Songhai Center in Port Novo. When I went to Port Novo, I actually ran out of cash, and I had to wait from a Friday till a Monday. I couldn't get food to eat. I couldn't buy food, and I could only drink water. It was a terrible experience. It's one of the things I've written an article about on discovercotonou.com. And during that period, all I could get access to was water. And I used to stay at the stadium watching people play handball just to keep my mind off the fact that I was hungry. But I kept working. I never stopped working. I kept writing my articles and all that. But I had to wait till Monday, where my sister was able to send me, I think it was the equivalent of 10,000 naira through UBA Africash. She worked with the bank, with one of the apps of the bank anyway. So that was how I got cash, to get myself out of the mess I was in. So it can be terrible when you can't get access to cash. In my case, I didn't even have the cash. So those are some of the issues that we want to contend with. We hope that things will get better, that the African banks will begin to communicate directly with one another and make it easy for travelers, because it can be a very unpleasant experience. All right? Again, you can talk to other experienced travelers. What have they? I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. Some people are traveling, they have little or no problems getting access to cash because they are using, for instance, maybe cards that allow them to take money from any ATM machine at all. They are international travelers. They are people from Europe and America. They may be black, they may be African, but They have access to those networks, so they don't have a problem with cash. So when they're telling you about traveling, it sounds a bit easy. When you are a person in Africa, using an African bank, using an ATM which is not a credit card, if you are using a card which is a debit card, a prepaid card, it's a different experience, it's a different ball game for you when you want to travel and when you want to use machines in other countries. And you need to keep this in mind. It can make a world of difference. Because if you're traveling and you get yourself stuck and you happen to be in a place where you know nobody, it will not be a pleasant experience. All right. Now, the fourth strategy has to do with something some people may be sentimental about, but which I am very coldly clinical about. You need to document important information for emergency situations and unexpected developments. Black people, they generally are quite religious, and we believe in talking about being blessed and rejecting bad experiences, and yet these things never seem to go away from us, never seem to be far away from us. We seem to even have a magnet for them compared to other races. So for me, I have learned to deal with them the way that it's required for one to make progress. So you deal with them head on, you prepare for them, you plan for them. That doesn't mean that you are praying that it will happen to you. It just means that you are being a practical person. So all kinds of things can go wrong. We are human beings, and the body we have is not perfect. We can fall sick. We are not perfect. We can have accidents. We may be avoiding accidents, and accidents can come to us. All kinds of things can go wrong. We could lose property. We can forget them somewhere and it gets taken away. Somebody could rob us, steal things from us. It happens all the time. Now, all these are unexpected developments, all right? The thing is, you've got to prepare for the possibility that they might happen. So, for instance, some people want to travel. I know of people who came in from the UK to Africa here, to Nigeria and some other African countries. They came with packs of medication that was given to them to protect them from things like malaria bites and all of that. So they didn't get themselves exposed and then fall sick. The point was, it was better to take preventative medicine ahead of time, ahead of the trip, knowing that they were going to get bitten one way or the other by mosquitoes. So now you take vaccination for yellow fever, yeah, but there are some other things that can happen to you. You could have, running stomach, maybe you food poisoning. All kinds of things can happen that could make you end up maybe needing medical attention. I mean, some people faint, and they need to be rushed to the hospital and all that. And if they're in a foreign country, people will need to find out details to help them. Some people have medical conditions. They need, maybe a decision needs to be taken to give you blood, and people don't have information. But if you do what I'm about to explain here, it will give people valuable information, especially the medical professionals who are trained to look for this kind of information and how to help you. So, like I said, sickness, accident, theft, loss of property. You could lose your phone. If you lose your phone has all your contacts. What if you don't have an access to other means of getting all your contacts? What happens? So if you've backed up your stuff, maybe onto Google Drive, that'll be good. But let's assume you don't have the money. What if your money was also stolen and you cannot get another phone immediately to retrieve all the numbers onto the new phone? What happens? What are the alternatives? Let's remember, we must not allow technology to make us get too carried away. Always, even the banks, they still have their paper, the ledgers, they still have them. So whatever happens with the electronic record, there's always a fallback. So you should have a fallback too. I didn't know this until it happened to me twice, and I've learned my lesson. Now, I keep some critical information that's on my phone, also on paper. I just bought a new diary now, preparing for whenever the lockdown will be eased up to the point that we can begin traveling again. And I intend to use it to the end of the year. And that diary, I'm loading it with all sorts of information that's on my phone, because I don't want to take any chances like I did before. I was just lucky that I was able to retrieve some of my data from Google Drive. But a lot of it was gone because I was stupid. I kept procrastinating about it. Now, my point is, you're on a trip, you're traveling. As you're traveling, you're gathering more information, you're storing more on your phone and all of that. The point is, you better form the habit of also putting some stuff in a paper-based storage. Maybe a diary, a phone book or something. Contact details of friends and trusted alliances and relatives, in a manner that they can be easily checked and retrieved. Your passport number. Yeah, your passport number. The truth of the matter is that we don't pray it happens, but it does happen to people. Your passport could get stolen, it could get lost, or whatever, it could get damaged, and you need to document that maybe when you want to make a formal report to the authorities, In my case, when my passport was stolen along with my luggage in Cotonou in 2017, I recall I had to do several reports. One of the things I needed to get at that time issued to me so I could continue with my stay was a document called Attestation de Perte. It's kind of like a certificate of loss. And when I went to apply for that at National Police Headquarters in Cotonou, they required me to fill in forms. Even when I went to the police station in the neighborhood where I had lost it, I remember I still had to fill some forms and I had to actually indicate my passport number. And so it's important that you have that written out somewhere else because I didn't know it by heart. Luckily, I had a duplicate copy of the data page from the passport, so that helped. But here's something I want to also point out. One of the reasons why I got into that mess was that I was always carrying my original passport around with me. It doesn't have to be so. One of the things I learned from a client of mine who is actually also a lawyer based in the Republic, and he helps a lot of people who are travelers, who want to kind of foreigners who come into the country. The truth is that a lot of people do not know that they don't have to carry the original passport, their passport documents, the originals around. You actually can go ahead and make a duplicate colored photocopy, a colored photocopy of your passport, of the original passport. Keep the original in a safe place, somewhere, maybe in your room or wherever, safe deposit box or something in the hotel, and then move around wherever you're going, in your travels, during your trip, carrying the duplicate colored version. It's as good as the original for presentation to whoever might want to verify whether or not you have the proper passport. And it saves you taking the risk of getting your passport lost or stolen so easily. It doesn't mean it eliminates completely the risk, but at least it greatly minimizes it. That was something I didn't know, and it cost me quite a lot, but I was just lucky I was able to get the attestation de perte because I say I had the duplicate copy of the data page. No, I didn't. I actually didn't have it, but I did have the number written out somewhere. So that's how I copied it out. I didn't have the duplicate copy. That was why I needed to get the certificate of loss from them. All right. So this is something that's very important because you don't want to put yourself in a position where a document as important as your passport becomes. It makes a mess of your entire trip because in any country, especially on the African continent where things are not as streamlined and properly set up as possible to make it easy for travelers to move around, you could lose your liberty literally if you're found without your passport on you. And in many cases, if you don't know anybody and probably don't speak the language, it could become extremely difficult to get yourself out of the mess. So it's better to avoid it completely. But if it does happen, what I've explained to you is something you can do to minimize how do I put it now, mitigate the inconvenience. Right, the fifth strategy is that you need to build trusted alliances in your target country upfront and during your stay. Now, let me quickly say something here. I said this before at the start of this presentation. I'm going to say it again. Everything I'm sharing with you in this video is actually based on personal experience. I didn't go on the internet and Google anything. So I basically sat down and just thought about what I've done, and that's the way 99% of all the content I've churned out over the last 15 years have been. I've been on the web for a long time now, since 2005, and I've gained a lot of experience creating content. And I've seen the power of providing useful information to people that they will be able to take advantage of to achieve their own desired goals. So what I'm doing here is just in line with what I've always done. I want to add value to you who are listening to me right now and watching this video. And I want you to know that what I'm telling you here in this presentation is based on real life experience, and it will do you a lot of good if you could sit down and try and digest it and then look at how you can use it as a basis for preparing yourself. Of course, it doesn't follow that everything there will be useful to you, but do use it to guide yourself, and you find that you make a much better go of your travel experience. Now, I'm talking here about building trusted alliances in your target country. I'm talking this of what I've been doing for years. As I speak now to you, I have sold my products. I have custom Excel Visual Basic software that I sell internationally. I've done that since 2012. and I have sold to people and built relationships with people who are farm business owners and some of them are web marketing clients in countries in and out of Africa, the Philippines, the UK, Canada, Tanzania, Malawi, Uganda, Benin Republic, Cameroon, Ghana, and of course across Nigeria. Literally, I would say like maybe 85 to 90% of Nigerian states have made sales to people in different parts of, sold to people in Guinea. And there are some countries that I actually have. In Kenya, for instance, I have about 3 clients or 2 clients in Kenya. Uganda, I think I have 4 now. So then my most recent client is from Pakistan, during the lockdown for that matter. And I have another guy from the UK. He's a Nigerian based in the UK. So my point is, I have had the opportunity to build relationships with those because I would say that more than 90% of these people are still in touch with me till today on WhatsApp, on email, via phone. And because of my newsletter, I'm able to keep in touch with them because I use WhatsApp a lot now. I'm able to keep in touch with them. Some of them are even not yet buyers. There are some of them are from some countries, like North African countries, for instance, Egypt, countries like Haiti. I've had inquiries from there. I have relationships with some of them who keep asking me questions. And my point is this. I have gotten information. There was a time when there was this crisis in, what's the name of this country? Where there was a crisis in, I'm trying to remember. It's a border country. They share the same border with Malawi. So my Malawian client made a payment by doing a wire transfer to me, to my dollar account. And I remember when we had about the crisis in that country. I keep forgetting the name of the country. But he was telling me he had gone quiet and hadn't asked me for help with using the software because his company had actually invested some resources in helping to provide relief to, I think, people in that country. I can't remember what country it is now, But that country has some kind of natural disaster, and Malawi is a border country to that country, and So he told me that they were actually involved. I was shocked. I said, "Wow, I didn't know that country was a border country to yours." And he said, "Yeah, we share the same border." And his company was actually in the town that was actually a border town. My point is, the relationships I have, I thought that I get a lot of information that normally most people will not get who are living in my country, Nigeria. But because I have all these clients, I can actually pick up the phone. If I don't want to use WhatsApp, I call some of these people. We have such relationships that when they see my call, they actually have my name stored on their phone. They just say, "Tayo, how's it? What's going on?" And that kind of thing makes it possible then to plan to travel. So when I began to travel, it became very easy. Some of them would have to actually call me on my Nigerian number and say, "Oh, Tayo, I had to call you in bed. I saw that your Nigerian number was not going through, and I had to call you. I knew you had traveled." And that's going to be what will happen more and more. I've gotten about 3 invitations now from Uganda through workaway.info from people who want me to host me. The platform of workaway.info allows you to do that. It's a cultural exchange website. And the point is, I'm then talking to clients in that country who already bought my software about coming over and then having them, come around and have me do training for them on feed formulation and all of that. The reason why I'm providing this background in this section of the presentation is because it's the basis on which I've built my own trusted alliances. So the information about my travel will come from these people that I've already built a relationship with over time by adding value to them. So now they see advantage in my coming over to their country because if I go to their country and I'm hosted by this other company, this NGO, then I'll be getting free accommodation and free feeding and all that while I add value to them there. And then these other CEOs of mine can organize themselves into groups where I can give them access to my training and my products. You understand? So I'll be killing multiple birds with one stone. But the thing is, I will get information to enhance my travel experience from them without having to stress myself because I trust them. I've built a relationship with them for years. And that's one of the things you can do. So if you're planning to travel, one of the things you actually want to do is, if it's possible, then you want to have, this is something you begin to plan towards. It's not just something you just jump up and say, "I want to travel," and you just travel within a matter of weeks. Oh, well, except you want to do that, no problem. But usually it's better to try and build relationships. And you can test the quality of your relationships as you're doing that. Okay? The reliability of information you get from those you are connecting with. Like I said, we have these young Africans now who are doing a lot of traveling and sharing information. Some of them have network of contacts they can link you up with, but you've got to verify, you've got to validate, you've got to test the quality of the integrity of the people you are being connected with at all times. because there are bad people everywhere, and you must be careful about that. So it is because I am doing business with a lot of people and in my own network that makes it easier for me. And if you could do something like that as well, where you are able to build relationships based on the fact that you're adding value to people, it enables you to kind of filter out the bad eggs and get good quality people. Most of the people I'm connected with are actually business owners, and some of them are students. So it's easy for me to actually use them as a basis for exploring the possibilities in terms of my travels. And so that's something you want to do, but be careful. Now, some of these people also, you want to check what they're telling you. Some people will be giving you travel information that is, from their own perspective, good quality, but some of them have not traveled in a while, so they may not be up to date. There may be changes. So when they tell you things you want to verify from somebody else in your network, that's why you need to build alliances and connect with as many people as possible. Some of the experienced travelers we're talking about, you may bounce your ideas off them. So and so told me that if I'm traveling, this can happen, that can happen. I need to do this, I need to do that. Is that so? Is that what you have to do when you went to that country? You do that. You have to be relentless in doing your due diligence. If not, you get into big soup, okay, in doing this. So some people may not have up-to-date information. You need to find a way to check that by checking with other people, whatever you're told by one person. So use them to check one another. And some people may be overzealous. They want to create the impression that they know more than they do. So it's just a human tendency. Sometimes, and you see, when you get into trouble by using the information they're giving you, then they'll say, oh, I didn't really know. I'm sorry about that, but you're sorry, I'm in a mess. So better you do your due diligence, do your checks, double check and triple check whatever you're told before you then act based on it. So build your alliances and test the quality of those relationships you are building. Right. On the sixth strategy, you then need to announce and document your arrival and itinerary at the relevant agencies. Okay, so this now assumes that I haven't done this in any particular order. I don't think it's necessary. At any point in time, you find yourself even revisiting some of them and doing some of them again. So there's no particular order. So my point is, you got all your information together. You're ready. You're good to go. But the point is, when you get into your travel destination, all right, I recommend strongly, and this is something I've done religiously, whenever I get you to a new country, the first place I go to straight away, unless they've closed, unless I come in at a time that's after office hours, I go straight away to the embassy of my country. Why? Because the embassy is the number one place where a citizen is supposed to go when he or she enters that country that is not his own. That embassy is where the people that are there that are supposed to protect your interests are located. So it is in your own interest to get down to that place as quickly as possible to let them know you are around, so that they know they have work to do, because that's their job. Okay. So when you come to the country, the first thing you do is, and like I said, if you've done your due diligence, that means you already know what the address. You have the phone number. You probably even you made contact with somebody there. You already have a name. The person knows who you are. The person probably even knows you're arriving on the date you're arriving, and is probably expecting you. So when you arrive, the first thing you should do is go there and show up, meet face to face, build a rapport, make sure they document that you arrived. I remember that when I arrived in one of the countries, I don't want to mention the country, the embassy, I was the one that actually told them they needed to have a book where they would allow people to record their names, the details, phone numbers, blah, 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 purpose of visit, intended duration of stay, and all of that, itinerary. And because I told them, I said I was shocked when I came to the embassy, and I found out that they just said, okay, good to see you. Thanks for showing up. Good to know you're around. Hope you'll be well. And let us know if you need any help. I said, is that all? Am I not going to be made to fill a form so you know I came in and you have my passport number, you know my details, you know what my time of departure is, where I'm going to be, and all that? And they said, oh, no, we don't do that. I said, well, you're supposed to. All the other countries have been, they do that, and it's only sensible, because you should even have that as a record. You should know the number of people from your country that have visited, because you are the embassy. And I wasn't talking to the ambassador, by the way. I was just talking to one of the officers at the the kind of just the welcome section. Anyway, so then she took what I said to I think one of the senior officers anyway. And by the time I came back, I think a day or two later, there was a book had been opened, and I was able to record all of that. I said, well, I feel better now. I feel that you guys know I exist. And because of the discussions and all that, I had already built relationships. I got the phone numbers of the two of them, got the phone number of the senior officer. And later on, I would return to that same embassy to do some other stuff that got me some good exposure. And I got a client as well from amongst them. I don't want to say more than that, but my point is, because I kind of did more than the average person did by adding value to them in that manner, I kind of broke the ice and gave me reason to visit later on. And from there, all kinds of things happened. And whenever I did something new, I want to show them. And next thing I knew, at the point they just had to show me, they opened the opportunities opened up for me to do certain things for a very senior one amongst them, and I earned some significant income in the process. I just got hired. And my point is, most importantly, I learned a lot from interacting with embassy officials, because then when I began to continue with my travels, the information they gave me enabled me to know what my rights were at the border, and I was able to ask questions and resist certain things, and I was able to also educate other people who were travelers, at least those of them that were traveling with their proper papers, not the ones that were traveling illegally. So I was able to tell them, look, no, you're supposed to be, don't do that, don't accept this, don't do that, because I had information from the right sources. So it's very important. You should actively make friends, quote unquote friends now. This kind of friendships are not friendships. You're not looking to, it could turn out to be useful long-term friendship, but this is a friendship that will just facilitate your travel experience. That's my point. So you actively make friends with key personnel in those agencies, connect with them through phone, email, WhatsApp, and social media, ASAP if possible. And use that anywhere you are. Whenever you experience a challenge, I remember sometimes I will be at the border and somebody will be giving me some hassle at one of the foreign points, and I will just pick up the phone and call and tell one of them, look, why am I being made to do this? Isn't there something can't you talk to this officer for me? I'm not supposed to pay whatever, this and that. And because I have that opportunity, sometimes I used to get some concessions, so it can put you out of a lot of circumstances that are not very pleasant sometimes. If you get into trouble, the fact that you can pick up the phone and call these people can make all of them. You can just send a car with a driver to come or with one of the officers to come and talk to whoever, and then get you out of the mess, whatever it might be. So sometimes you find that it pays to have access to the right people. And so when you have this opportunity to document your arrival and your itinerary at relevant agencies, don't joke with it. Go as far as possible to get all the right links and connections and leverage them as and when appropriate. Right. Now, the seventh point, the seventh strategy. This one has to do with you being close to becoming a nuisance of sorts, because you really want to learn as much as possible in as short a period as possible, as much as possible before and during your trip. Okay? You will need to ask questions about everything a traveler needs to know, or a visitor, a foreigner, or a tourist needs to know to explore your intended travel destination with as little as possible headaches or hassles. So you want to ask them where are the places you can go, the must-see destinations, tourist destinations, or whatever it is, whatever it may be your reasons for being there. What are the places to go to, and what are the places not to go to? It's important to know the places not to go to, whether by virtue of the laws that say you shouldn't go there, or by virtue of the safety considerations. Maybe there are areas where, I remember when I went to the UK, and I took a taxi from Oxford Brookes University, from outside of the Oxford Brookes University, straight down to Sheffield to see some family friends. It was the first time ever I was going to see them. They were friends to my dad when he was schooling there. And I remember I paid £500 to the taxi driver. I had no idea that it was a lot of money and that I shouldn't have traveled that way, and I should have taken the train. So I just said, let me just get this parcel to them and all that. So I just took the taxi. I remember, and I had over £2,500 in cash in my pockets when I went on that trip. And the guy took me there and took me back from Sheffield to Oxford the same day, that night. He brought me back at night. And it was funny because when I saw the people, one of the things they told me when I told them, I think we discussed and I was mentioning that I had some cash on me. And one of the comments the lady made was, "You are very muggable," and the thing is, There are some things you don't do. I didn't know that. It's just like if I was in Nigeria, there are some things I would tell somebody not to do. You wouldn't take your phone and start walking around Purple Street with an iPhone and just strolling in the middle of the street at 10 p.m. at night. That would be a very stupid thing to do. So do that, or to do a leg about that kind of thing. So the same thing was what I had done. And later on, I got to learn that. So my point is, when you travel to a country, you need to ask those questions first before you begin to move around. You need to know your environment, because it doesn't follow that every country will be the same, and I'm sure we know that. But sometimes we take it for granted. So I'm just pointing them out. These are things you need to think about up front when you get to the country. Even before you get there, begin to ask questions. What transportation methods to adopt, and what are the best ones, what are the most cost-effective ones, what are the safest ones, and which ones are not to be taken? What transportation routes to follow, and which ones are not to be followed? Except, whatever the extremes might be, they will explain them to you. What times of days to go out and when not to go out. This becomes significant in a place like, for instance, in my country, Nigeria. There are some parts of Lagos, for instance, where there are certain types of masquerades. There's one called the Oro. And it doesn't matter who you are. You don't want to be on the streets when the Oro is out. There's a place called Badagry, and if they are doing the Oro, and you are found on the streets at the wrong hour of the night, you'll be in big soup. If it's a woman, there are all kinds of consequences, extremely severe consequences. So if you're a foreigner, they don't want to know. You're expected to be guided by your guests, by the people that are your hosts. So you need to find out all these things. And different countries, they have their traditions, they have their culture. You need to find out when do you go out, when not to go out. Sometimes it's the government that gives a law, passes a rule. Maybe there's a curfew or whatever. You need to know. You've got to inform yourself. Sometimes people might forget to tell you, so you need to ask. Then who to associate and not to associate with. Again, it's important. There are societies in which there are groups that are warring. There are what you call them. What do you call them? The cults. There are what you call the gangs, and there are communities in which certain gangs are dominant. And so when you move around and you happen to be seen moving around with a gang member, rival gang members may begin to see you as being part of that gang and then see you as an enemy. You may find yourself therefore getting attacked later on when you're on your own. So be careful who you associate with. You need to know how to move around and who to move with and things like that. What to wear, what not to wear. Sometimes we're told that you wear a combination of red and black, it means something. You wear a red wristband, it means something in certain societies now. These young people are beginning to form all kinds of groups, and they associate you wearing a red bandana being indicative of something. You need to know what to wear, what not to wear, what to carry, what not to carry. Sometimes you also need to know what's been banned. So I remember I was coming into Nigeria from Benin some time ago, and I bought some things. I think they were shoes or so for my kids. I remember the immigration officials, the customs officials, they stopped the vehicle I was in, and it was very late at night, and I was very irritable, and so I was extremely stiff and cold in my responses. And the guy then decided to check through my bags and said, "Oh yeah, you see, these are banned, the list of banned items you're not supposed. So you brought it in, you didn't pay any duties, blah blah blah." I think maybe they were supposed to have paid duties and show evidence of duty payment. Of course, I didn't pay any duties. I didn't know. I had no idea, and all my coldness evaporated at that moment because I realized I could get dropped from the vehicle and detained. So my point is, you need to know those things. So then I was told about the list of banned items, what I was not supposed to bring into the country, and if I was going to bring something, there were some duties I was supposed to have paid, and then to have evidence of having paid those. I didn't have it, and I realized I was wrong. So my point is, these are things you need to keep in mind. In certain places, you're not to take photos. At the border, I remember. I think I saw. There's a guy called Grubinski. He had the experience of. I think it was in Liberia. He had the experience where they were told to pay some fees or something, and he had to do a video explaining that they'd been ripped off and they were made to pay fees they were not supposed to pay. And I think the government eventually reached out to him and did something about that. But there's another person again. I think it was this Wodomaya guy who was saying something about getting deported because I think at Uganda at the immigration point or the border point or something, he was accused of taking a photo which he told them he didn't take, and they checked his phone, they didn't see, but they still decided to deport him. That was at Uganda. So the thing is, you don't take photos at banks, security agencies, the military zones. There are certain things you don't do. So no matter how enthusiastic and excited you are I remember there's another person I saw who went to one of these tourist attractions, these pyramid sites in Egypt, and went and started taking photos, at some places that they were not. In fact, first of all, they went there without being authorized, and then they began to take photos. They were eventually arrested and deported. So these are things that can be quite serious, and you may sometimes get locked up first before you get deported, and you get treated badly. So you don't want to have all those experiences, except you are actually looking for trouble yourself, which I hope not. Right. The eighth strategy is for you to get what is called a guide. You call it a travel guide. I speak about a guide in two senses. A guide in print, so it could be like travel guide on paper. And many countries have that, but not many African countries don't have it. One of the things I'm doing through discovercotonou.com, I intend to do anyway, is to at a point be able to produce basic travel guides that contain some of these things, that, like maybe the list of must-see destinations, the most popular tourist destinations, hotels, typical rates for hotels, checks you need to do about the things you need to have on you. Basically the kind of things I'm talking about in this presentation, but in a guide form, that people can print and have on them. Maybe they can, use it. But then there will also be the guide that's a human being. You could actually get somebody to be your guide. There are a lot of young people that do that. I've noticed in Benin and in Ghana. I didn't see much of that in Cameroon. So the thing is, it's important to find somebody that can take you around and save you a lot of time from where if you were doing it alone, you have to then search and go up and down asking questions, get lost and all of that. If you have somebody that knows the way, that knows where to go and what to do and how to negotiate and who to call on for different things, you save a lot of time. But when you don't know anything, you don't know most of the things, because you're new and you're not familiar with the environment, you spend more time, you spend more money, you get more stressed up, and you don't really have the quality of experience you should have. So you want to move around with minimal time loss and more purpose, so that you make the most of every single day you spend there. And sometimes you don't have long, because probably you want to cover 4 different countries. And so the best thing is get a guide to let you know, to guide you, to help you plan your movements much more cost effectively and time effectively. All right. And lastly, the ninth point is something that I don't think many people ever consider, but I personally, because of my travels, I found it to be a wise thing to do. Arrange for or create by yourself, make by yourself, low-cost thank you gift items or souvenirs that you can give out to avoid or minimize having to part with cash where possible. People ask for cash a lot. Sometimes you'll get asked for cash by people who are at certain areas where they control or they can determine your ability to progress or not. And they can be very naughty when they make their demands. So, but if you present yourself in a very professional manner, if you're very formal and polite at the same time, but if you present yourself in a manner that already discourages the possibility, because first of all, you have all your papers on you, everything you've done the right things, so you are not at fault, you've not done anything wrong, you're not begging anybody. It becomes more difficult to ask you to give them money or anything. That's where you're dealing with people that can kind of limit your ability to move forward in your trip. But it's good to always have something you give away that can make it kind of build a relationship for you that you may be able to take advantage of or leverage later on. Who knows, you may have to pass through that route again. The fact that you've done that the first time can make it easy, but it doesn't have to be money. That thing, we ask you for money, find a way to deflect it, and with a lot of jokes. And I learned to do that because I don't give anybody money. It doesn't make any sense. The minute you start it, it never stops. So what I did was, I found that's one of the reasons why I believe so much in having skills. In this case now, digital skills are not relevant. This time around, you need skills that are more of the vocational kind. So if you can make things, artifacts, useful items, or you can buy stuff that can be given away, something that's very cost effective, and you just brand, maybe branded items, so things like a phone case, pouch, phone pouch, branded ball pens, things like that, mouse pads, little things that but are branded. If you are, particularly, I'm talking to most of you who are business owners and are traveling, or people that are, even if you are employed, you have something that you make on the side that's very useful. People would love to have. Maybe key holders, those kinds of things, branded key holders. You could just make them specially for your trip. If you have a website, you print your website on it. It even helps you to become the kind of branded gift item that can be used to promote your brand. So you then give that out to people, not just randomly, but when you get pressed for it and somebody's asking for something, that's something you can just give. Well, I have this. I don't really have any cash on me. I'm sorry about that. Maybe next time. But I think this will be useful for you. I know you can use it. You can do this, do that, do that. You can have some, what do you call them? Little booklets, notepads, branded. Those are things you can give to people and just use to deflect the demands for monetary, gifts, especially from all these people at the different points that you have to interact with them. But then generally when you move around the societies you are going to be as a traveler, it's good to have something you can give to people that they don't really have access to in their environment. So from your own country, you are bringing something that is unique to you. Sometimes you can take, like I said, arts and crafts, the ones that are easy to transport, are not very heavy, but are very, unique and original to your own country. And you bring them and say, oh, this is something in my country that we use for this, this, this. They would love to show it off and say, my friend from Nigeria gave me this, So those are some of the things you could do. You have them in your bag, not just for everybody, like I said. You're not going to be like some kind of Father Christmas, but you're just going to be looking at unique opportunities to give away to people that will actually value it and that it will make a difference, and it's worth it, So then, and for the rest of the people, you just climb up, man. I don't give anybody any money. It's as simple as that, So because the whole idea, when you're in Europe and America, I never had anybody asking me for money when I traveled to the UK. I was in Scotland, I was in Northfield, I was in Wales. Nobody asked me for any money anywhere, So why should people be asking me for money because I'm traveling in a continent? It doesn't make any sense. And I didn't commit any crime, so why should I give you money? So that's my own philosophy. I don't give anybody money, not in my country, not outside of it. It's as simple as that.